All right, I just want to do a quick, like almost a day one, day two update. So I'm still going through this wiring, and I remember when I bought the car, there was a drive shaft loop welded in, and you can see this spot right here, geez, where they welded in the drive shaft loop underneath. I cut this out years ago. Well, they cut it out, and then I cut out the rest of it, but you can see right here where it wore through. Well, the problem here is the wire harness went right here. This is where the factory wire harness goes. So, as I unravel this, I see all this clunk of crap. Individual wires fixed, it's all melty, and someone did a half-ass job at repairing this. And so what they did was just individually wrap the wires and then re-loomed it back up with this super sticky, regular tape. Guys, if you're welding, know what's on the backside. That's the moral of the story here. This is ridiculous. This is gonna, now I have to recheck all that stuff, but good thing is I've never known it, so everything had to have worked. But hopefully I can remove some of these. We'll see. All right, guys. All right, I'm a few days into it. Only been working in the mornings. That's only pretty much, it's the only time of the day I have to work on the car. Not so much in afternoons. Got other things to do. So I've gone through the harness quite a bit. Taken out quite a few wires, unraveled more stuff. As you can see, this is pretty much what you can expect. Just wires everywhere, and using a multimeter to shoot wires across. Still have, I'm pretty much through the whole wire harness right now. For the inside, I'm done for right now. Went through the trunk, still trying to figure out what all I can take in the trunk. What I did figure out after talking to a couple people and knowing that I'm going to use a Holley set, I'm going to go ahead and remove the FPDM, the fuel pump controller, and all the wires, and I'm going to use my Holley to trigger the fuel pumps. So that'll allow me to remove all the wires for the FPDM, and I'm also going to come over here and like I've added before, these new fuel pump wires. I'm gonna unravel all this stuff and add that, I think, in the harness. I'm gonna try to clean that up just a little bit more. That's how I kind of like zip tied it, drilled some holes through this little fitting prior, or some years ago, to upgrade those new fuel pump wires with a thicker gauge. I think I'm gonna try to make that a little cleaner. So moving back out to the outside of the car, man, I tell you what, it's really good to have a second harness that you can actually reference off of. It's gonna pay dividends when I go to put all this stuff back together. So here's where I am on the spare 01 Cobra harness that I have. I have the fuse fuse and relay panel all opened up. That was actually a bit to figure out. And I started pulling out all the wires. I have the ABS module connector removed, and all this associated wires removed. I have a lot of the ABS sensor wires removed. You can see all the protective wrapping that I have done. Quite a few wires removed so far, so I'm working in this bucket, and that's pretty much how I'm going to do it. I'm going to weigh the bucket empty so I can know the weight, and then I'll weigh the bucket with the wires in. So man, a lot of wires and connectors so far. Don't know the weight yet, don't care to weigh it, but still got quite a bit to go. No, babe, my phone is in there. You can check, I haven't touched it. So just multimeter and checking wires. One note that I will do, I will say, hey, really make sure you check your grounds on the grounds, there's one spot, let me find it. Grounds are linked in kind of like this, so you'll have a ground wire and they'll all be looped together. Be careful on that before you start cutting them, because all these wires are looped together. And then again, I was trying to unravel all the stock tape super hard, so what I did is I took a little pair of scissors and I started cutting them. Be very, very, very careful when you start cutting your tape. For obvious reasons, you'll start getting in some wires. I had to repair one wire. It was a ground. I ended up cutting it by mistake. It kind of made me a little upset, but it happens. You can easily fix it. That's that. But here's the deal. So here I printed out a bunch of the wire harnesses, the pages and stuff. Guys, this isn't sufficient. It's not gonna work out. I have all the Holly harnesses so I can start looking at it. I end up just buying a book off of a OEM harness. So I'm gonna open that up. This is what I think you need. You need a factory manual so you can really check the harnesses. So here I am opening it up. Hope it's the right one. It's a 2003 wiring diagram. I'm almost positive you need one of these to really do it and not mess it up too much. A lot of the wires, you aren't going to know where they come and what they actually affect. There's a couple of wires that I've encountered that they have to be soldered in or linked in somewhere within the harness. So at, let's call it point A, at the start of the connector, I'll shoot continuity on that, and then I'll find on point B at the end in another connector, as I'm tracing the wires manually, there will be two spots that beeps for continuity. So somewhere in those harnesses, kind of like how I showed you on those grounds, they're connected in. I haven't figured it out yet, so I had to stop and just buy an actual wiring diagram harness, or I'm sorry, a manual that has all the harnesses. So that's the part number that I got. I believe it to be the right ones, 2003 wiring diagram. So more to follow as I continue on this deleting these wires. I tell you what, it's pretty good. Definitely quite a few pounds removed so far. So I'm gonna keep this going and I'll blend it all together somewhere and post maybe midway through. But thanks a lot, and more to follow as I continue deleting all these harnesses or all these wires. Definitely a task. Again, not rocket science. Extremely, extremely tedious. All right, thanks. All right, it's another morning. I'm getting back after it. Spent some time, an hour here, hour there. Still have all my factory harness stuff here. So easiest way I found to do it was, of course, mark everything, but I had to change on the engine harness for the ECU right here to the engine bay harness. Before I was marking everything that I wanted to remove, I just had to mark what I wanted to keep, just because it was too many that I'm going to remove. So going Holly with the factory ECU engine harness, there's not a lot of stuff to retain. There's almost nothing to retain if you are not keeping the CCRM, keeping AC, keeping fans. If you're going to run your own wiring, there's not much to keep, because it's pretty much it. There are some lights. I think it's a fog light in here that you got to keep. What else? Yep, and a blinker right here that you have to keep. I think the main headlight is in this wire harness right here, being a headlight connector right there. So I'm keeping AC, keeping my fan, keeping the CCRM, so I'm keeping a lot of stuff. So I started marking it. I tell you what, the easiest thing to do here is, if you can think about it ahead of time and before you remove the harness out the car, while you have it all laid out, tape every connector and label what it's for. before taking the harness out. It'll make it a lot easier. Another thing that I figured out is recommend you use a donor harness. Compare that donor harness before you get after it. There's a couple of things in my A2D Cobra harness here that does not transfer over, or it's not the same connector. So what I noticed here by bouncing off the two ECU connectors, and then I just ran it back, I have similar connections. So I have my main ECU, I have this gray connector here, I have this gray connector here, and then I started looking for a green connector. Well, right off the bat you can see there's no green color connector. So not worried about the color too much. I just continue to, here, let me lay this out a little better. All right, so ECU here. And anyway, it was the green connector that really made me just really pay attention to it. I didn't notice it right away. So then I just counted the connectors and the math didn't work. So I got this gray one here, I got this gray one, no green connector. That green connector right here goes to the fuel pumps. If you've done any modded FPDM, you'll recognize the dark green or green and yellow connector. So this one doesn't have it, but no worries because I'm not using that. I actually removed all those wires yesterday over the weekend. So anyway, the gray one is by itself. But if you look in this A2D Cobra harness, it actually has that green and yellow connector in there. It's just something that I noticed, and it's not in this connector. So on the Cobras, they made it its own dedicated harness, and I know they did that because they went with a thicker, larger gauge wire for the 0304 Cobra fuel pumps. Whereas in the A2D Cobra, smaller gauge, and they just integrated it in this existing connector. So not a big deal. Moving on. So I have these two connectors, and then should match these two connectors. They don't. Gray to gray matches, but that's this green one. The green one didn't match. So a quick look on that is I just looked at the wires. They're all pretty much the same color wire, so I know that these, without even going into the wire diagram, I know that these connectors are the same. So almost positive all I have to do, depending on what I actually need out of here, I'm not going to worry about it too much now, I'll just swap the connectors. No big deal. And the same thing with the A2D Cobra harness connector. The fog light connector I noticed was different. Same color wires, just the connector is different. So no big deal there. But takeaway here is use a donor harness. Label everything before you remove it. That way you know where it came from. So if you need to go back and rethink about your plan, you could just identify, well, I just put keep on that one, but let's see, one, like you could label that CCRM and you'll know, or whatever else it is. So that was a change, something that I had to do. So I picked up a wire diagram harness. I recommend that you get one, but man, I tell you, I can't catch a break. So 2003 Mustang, part number Foxtrot Charlie Sierra 121-03. That's the correct harness, or that's the correct manual. Man, you open this joker up and right away I knew something was wrong. 2003 Excursion Super Duty F250 such and such. Man, I can't win. Excursion Super Duty series wire diagram. Man, I don't know who replicated this manual, but they put Excursion F150 wire diagram in the proper book. So I bought it off eBay. It's supposed to be brand new. I see that they are just reproductions. So I gotta wait on them to respond back so I can get the manual. It's actually holding me up. It's making me second guess things. So far, that's my bucket of wire that I removed. I roughly weighed it yesterday, nothing scientific, but it was like 7 pounds and some change. It was super hot here in Virginia, so I couldn't work too much in the garage. It was just terrible. So I think I still got plenty more. I'll probably at least double that in wire. So I think my guesstimate is about 15 pounds. I think I am going to go with the dash, simply because I'll have to. Some of the wire harness is inside. Let me turn on that light. Alright. So I've gotten to some of the connectors here, and shoot, I'm 3 wires in, and I'm going to remove this white wire. The white wire just so happened, it's the inertia switch. It's the reason why I'm waiting on my wire diagram. I just want to make sure that that inertia switch, if I remove it, the wires, it's not going to mess anything up. So far I ran it goes all the way back to the CCRM, but I want to double check that in the wire manual and make sure it's not tied into anything. I think I'm good, but it's the reason why you need to check. So I mean, I've moved a significant amount of wires, and some of these connectors, they have like 3 wires, and once I get rid of the ECU, I bet you this connector goes away holistically. So yeah, that's going to leave me a lot of disconnected connectors in the dash. So I think it's only right to go through this as well, and plus I can just work on this on the bench. So I'll probably do that. Well, thanks for coming. I'm still working at it. This takes some time. Like I said, not rocket science, just tedious. If that's what you want to do. So we'll see. All right, thanks.